All right, aloha everybody. I'm really excited to introduce our guest speaker for this training session, Adam Wong. As he gets ready to share his screen and get prepared, I'm going to just do a quick introduction and background of him. So Adam was born and raised in Kula, Maui. He was raised in a Paniolo lifestyle, learning the importance of caring for all of our resources. A proud honors graduate from the Hawaii public school system, he then went away to Oregon State University in Corvallis to study his passion in natural resources management. Adam finished his NREM degree infusing Hawaiian studies and Ahupua'a management at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in 2004. Adam has been a very active member in the Maui community as former director of campus outreach for Kamehameha Schools Maui, and is now employed at the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources Aquatic Resources Division as their education specialist. He is a part-time rancher, fisherman, and in his free time enjoys teaching his children sustainability through the traditions of Moka Tumakai living. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my very good friend, Adam Wong. Take it away.
How's it? Hello, everybody. Thank you, Serena, for the intro. Um, During this presentation, I'm going to request everybody to turn their cameras on so I can make sure that nobody's sleeping when I'm talking. Ah, just joking, just joking. I don't like the camera on me either, but I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, like what Serena said, I work for a Division of Aquatic Resources. I'll get a little bit more in depth about it throughout my presentation, but yeah, and during this time of COVID and Zoom meetings, it's very interesting. I'm not really a talker or presenter. I like more talking stories and informal kind of stuff. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. You guys can unmute yourselves and talk. I don't know if that's the protocol, but I appreciate that for sure. And if I don't go back and check about the chats and stuff, then try and remind me because I'm not too good about that either. Okay, let's see. I'll just share my screen then. Any questions before I start? No, we good? Okay. Stop. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that first? So just to make sure that it's up on the screen.
Looking good.
Okay, right on. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, I work for a Division of Aquatic Resources. Usually I have to start off, introducing the whole department because the Department of Land and Natural Resources, or DLNR, is comprised of a whole lot of divisions. And, most people, when they hear DLNR, when they say, "Oh, bro, you work for DLNR," I tell them, yeah, they think I'm the guy with the gun, bossing guys, checking cooler, stuff like that. But that's not my deal. I work for the Division of Aquatic Resources. Um, we deal with most of the marine stuff. The guys with the guns, that's our conservation and resource enforcement. That's DOCARE. You can see the rest of the list of all our division. I'm sure you guys had some other presentations from others as well. But we'll move on to the mission statement. So the mission statement, or our mission for Division of Aquatic Resources, is to manage, conserve, and restore the state's unique aquatic resources and ecosystems for present and future generations. For me, when I interpretate that, I think about, I just want my kids to be able to enjoy our resources as we do. I want my kids to be able to go out and fish and be able to bring home food and put fish on the table. So if we know malama what we get now and we don't do it right, then we're not going to be able to do that. So for me, this job, it is a job, but this is actually my passion. This is my lifestyle. I really care about the resources. Even if I wasn't in this position, I would strive to be an active member in the community for sure. So that's what our mission is. I start off with this comic um, thing from the newspaper. I don't know if you guys read newspapers anymore, or people know what comics are with the new age people. But in this one, it says, "Mister, what do I need to create a realistic marine environment?" So first off, this kid is walking into an aquarium store, and that's what he asks the aquarium owner, and the aquarium owner says that you'll need agricultural runoff, coastal overdevelopment, unprocessed sewage, and depleted fish species. This is the truth. This is what Maui is facing right now. To make a realistic aquarium that's really realistic of what our oceans are facing, these are the type of impacts that we're getting. The Maui Ocean Center, they have a controlled environment, which is why their fishes and animals, they do well there because everything is controlled and in balance. Right now, our oceans, not so much in balance. That's why we're trying to do our best to figure out ways to keep everything in harmony, I guess. So that's why I said earlier, we're responsible for managing aquatic resources and dealing with all these issues. So today, I'm going to talk about several of the anthropogenic impacts that's affecting our coral reefs. But I'm just going to focus on a couple. So today, what I was going to say was over 5,000 species are known to live within our coral reefs. Pretty much, we in Hawaii, choke coral reefs, choke fish, and coral is the backbone of the ocean. If we don't have the coral, we won't have the fish there. In this picture, I always tell the students, what does a healthy reef look like? Is it on the left side or the right side? A lot of people that go snorkeling, or if you go in the water, I tell them that if you're in a coral reef environment that has lots of colors, that's bright, that's there's all the pinks, the purples, they're shining out at you, that's a good sign that our coral reef is doing okay. And then you got the right side of the picture where everything is drab, there's not too much colors, there's a lot of sediment. In this picture, you can see that there's an invasive algae that's overtaking our coral. That's not too healthy. We don't want to end up on the right side. Okay. So our coral reefs, they're comprised of, different aspects that help make the coral reef survive. You need everything in balance. Yeah. So, you got your predators, your uluas, your jacks, you got apex predators, which is the sharks. You got to have your herbivores that's there, herbivores on the reef, which include parrotfish, surgeonfish, rudderfish, or eni nui. They all help and do their part by cleaning up the algae on the reef. You also need on the bottom left-hand corner what I listed, which is the crustose coralline algae, which is the CCA. That's the glue that help corals grow on substrates. So CCA is very important. I'm not going to go too much into that. And you also need your benthic algae. Every reef, you have a certain amount of algae that's good. You got to have that balance. When there's too much, then bad things can happen. So in this figure, on the upper side portion of you guys' screen, all the circles represent what I just showed in the last picture. So the bigger the circles, that's the more of the biomass that we have. So in a healthy reef community, when you have the reef fish, you have the predatory fish, you have the crustose coralline algae, and you just have the perfect amount of sunlight, it'll keep everything in balance. When you end up adding a lot of nutrients, or there's like a huge rainflow or something happens, there's injection wells that's putting too much nutrients in the water, then you're going to end up getting out of balance. So that's what we're going to end up, our reefs are going to look like. This is a perfect example of what happened in Ma'alaya a bunch of years back. We just had coral reef collapse, and when that happens, it's pretty much near impossible to get back to the healthy condition. So we really want to do our part to help avoid coral reef collapse. This is a Jenga game. Pretty much when we look at the coral reefs, everything has their block. We have the sharks, they have a block, urchins, the algae, herbivores. You know, once you take out too much of those pieces, what's going to happen is your Jenga game will fall down and it'll collapse, and then we'll end up with a coral reef collapse. And this is a perfect picture. This is actually that was shot in Mahalaya when we were dealing with the nutrient-rich water. Okay, everybody okay? Need a break? We good? Okay. So today I'm just gonna talk about like 3 of the impacts that that are really impacting our coral reefs today. There's many more, but these are things that the division really focus on addressing. There's sedimentation, invasive algae, overfishing, overuse, and there's groundings and anchor damage. Today, I'm just going to cover 3, which is the sedimentation, the invasive algae, and the overuse. Overfishing that's a touchy subject, so I really don't want to talk about that today, but we'll just go into these. So the first one, coastal runoff and sedimentation. I'm sure you guys are all familiar. You guys probably work Mocha or Makai, and you guys, a lot of the native plants, everybody, we got to plant plants. Yeah, there's a reason, yeah. Because when we know we don't have ground cover, this is what ends up happening is that we get all this sediment that's in the water. In this picture, you can see the sediment line, super dark red, that's in the ocean. Okay, so what happens is the sediments go on, they start smothering our corals. And once the sediments start smothering the corals and they put a layer on it, then all of a sudden we start getting this turf algae that builds when the corals are being suffocated. So slowly over time, what happens is that the corals, they get smothered and they have a hard time. Surviving. So this is different from coral bleaching. This is just the sediment issue and the sediment anthropogenic impacts. We talk about Honolulu Bay a lot because it's a perfect example of sedimentation. There's back in 2000, I think 2011, 12 or something, but there was a Hurricane Flossie. I'm not sure if you guys remember when that came. But in Honolulu, we have certain transect sites that we're monitoring certain coral habitats, and we have GPS points for all of them. And we go back to that same site 4 times a year, so we do it quarterly. And this one year, it was in July or August when we went back, we went to one of our dive sites and we couldn't find it. And we swear our GPS was on, everything was there, but we were diving around and we just could not find the spot. And then we realized when we put our gear down in the water that there was like at least almost 1 foot to 2 feet of sediment that was on that whole reef structure. You could not see the corals, it was buried. And that was crazy because, we see sediment there, but we didn't see that much before. And when we thought about it at that time, like what happened a couple months before, and it was actually Flossie that sat on the West Maui Mountains, and there was construction that was going on that was right up above the road in Honolulu, and a lot of that dirt came down from the construction site. It ended up right on the south side reef, and it completely covered it. So that's just one example of how sedimentation can completely destroy a coral reef. That's like the maximums. Okay, so then we're talking about alien invasive species. I showed you guys pictures before what a pristine coral reef looks like, what happens when invasive algae gets introduced. This is just a certain type of invasive algae that we have. I think you guys had a talk about invasive algae yesterday. That was on the schedule, I'm pretty sure. But what I'm getting at here is that this is the map of Maui, and those red dots mean that we have super abundant invasive algae in those areas. So if you can see Honoko'ai, Ma'alaya, Kihei, Papaloa, or the North Shore, we see a little bit more invasive algae than where we have in other spots like Honolua, Puamana, Oluwalu. And it's directly correlated with urban areas, which I'm highlighting on the map as well. And one of the reasons why we have the big red dots next to Kihei, Papaloa, and Honoko'ai is that we also got the sewage injection wells that's right across the street. So the injection wells, if you guys are not too familiar about those, they're across the street, especially across Kaikili, which I'm going to talk about next. And what happens is the water that's being injected, it's coming up on our reefs next door, right at Kaikili Beach. I'm not sure if you guys been there before snorkeling, but you do come across areas where there's water that's seeping out, and then you get the hazy in the water and stuff when you're diving. I'm not sure if you guys saw that before, but that's what's happening. So what the division decided to do in that area is to create the Kaikili Herbivore Fisheries Management Area. So this was one way that we could try and figure out or address what was going on. And this is actually a world-renowned management area that scientists from all over the world they come down and check it out, because this is kind of like a one of a kind thing. Besides making it a no-take period area, this area is just focused on protecting herbivores. And why the herbivores is because we have the huge nutrient bloom, which creates a lot of invasive algae. So if we try to protect our herbivores, then the herbivores can do their job and clean up that invasive algae. So that's how Kaikili KHFMA was established, and it's been going on for about 10 years now. I think we just had our 10-year anniversary last year, but pretty good things going on there. Any questions? Serena, how am I doing on time?
You are pretty good.
Should I speed up?
Yeah, a little bit, maybe.
Okay. Sorry.
5 minutes or so.
Okay.
But you're good.
Yeah, you have like 20 minutes at least.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 20 minutes.
Perfect. So fish resources, we need that healthy population of fishes, especially the herbivores. When you see coral reefs and you see the sturgeons on the reef, the parrots, that's a good sign, because especially, if you guys know what manini are, you want to see those in schools of thousands, because they just go around and they kind of forage, they move. When you get other fish like parrotfish, they come in and they do the deep cleaning. So if you have a nice school of parrotfish that's on the reef, you're going to see in the coral that you actually see like, an ice cream scooper, like the half moon kind of circles that they clean off the junk part, or not the junk part, I should say, or that certain parts of the coral and the dead parts. So they clean it off so the corals can get healthier. So fish are very important to the coral reef as well. So in this study, we do a lot of surveys and we try to track biomass of fish, of certain fish in certain areas. And a lot of our monitoring deals with monitoring sites that's either closed or managed, and sites that's right outside of the boundaries of managed areas. So if you'll see inside in these graphs is that the red squares on one side is a MLCD, or which is a marine life conservation district, such as Honolua, Molokini. It's a closed area compared to the open areas where there's no regulation or management that's going on there. And you can see in the graph is that when you have a lower biomass of herbivorous fish, you'll get more macroalgae. So pretty much you know enough fish, you only get a little bit, you're gonna get choke algae. And this is the same, but this is dealing with parrotfish, and we have all of our dive sites here as well. And as you can see towards the left side of the graph, where we have more biomass of parrotfish, you have less biomass of algae. And then when you start moving over to the right, then you can see areas like Kihei, I think was at Alamwana, which is all the way at the end. You know, that's when the macroalgae is going on the incline. Okay, so that is the invasive species part. Serena wanted me to talk on this because this is a super cool thing. You know, I know COVID is, it was detrimental to a lot of people, and you know it's a hard time, but it was awesome to see the changes and impacts that it did have in a positive way of not having all the tourists in the water, you know, of not having that much people every day. There was a lot of changes that's happening that hopefully we're going to be able to document. So this was actually a kind of a blessing in disguise, because Molokini is actually an area that we've been trying to provide better management for because of the amount of people that visit there every day. So it was pretty cool to be doing a lot of work out there during this time, and not seeing nobody but just us being the only boat out there. So I'll talk a little bit more on this right now. So as you can see in these pictures with Molokini Crater, just remember Molokini is a MLCD, and it's completely closed off. So subzone A, if you can see, it's like kind of like point to point almost. That is, there's no fishing at all, no take in that area. Subzone B goes around the island, and I'll show you in another picture, that you can just fish by trolling. So your boat needs to be on propel or motoring. You have to be moving in order to fish in the subzone B. There's over 350,000 visitors that go to Molokini a year. So we got data up to 2018. 2019, I'm sure it was much higher. These pictures that's taken, I mean, I'm not sure how many people spend time in Molokini, but if you guys do and you see it like at 10 o'clock peak time, it is crazy. You see these, everybody swimming and floating on the top. Like when we do our surveys, we're literally diving under hundreds of people counting fish, and they're all floating above us. It's crazy. Molokini is out of control. So we want to help regulate that, because with this project, what we're trying to show and prove is that, you know, there's just too many visitors that's there, and it is having some kind of impact on the coral reef ecosystem. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you guys on quick video regarding Maya Bay. I'm not sure if you guys know where Maya Bay is, but the beach movie, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, that's where they filmed that movie. So it became a super popular tourist destination. So I just wanted to show you this clip, one quick one, because this clip is pretty cool, because it actually correlates with what happened with the COVID-19 shutdown and stuff here in Molokini on Maui as well. So let me play this for you guys.
It looks like you are in heaven. Movie called The Beach, they use the Maya Bay as the location, so we make it more popular.
Until recently, 3,500 people visited the beach every day. In those crowds, it felt a lot less like heaven, so the authorities shut it down.
Percentage of living coral before we close it is only 8%. So you can see that it's been a very serious condition.
So can paradise be saved? 8 months after the closure, I was able to visit Maya Bay to find out how well it's recovering. We crossed the line, keeping out the boats, and approached the national park staff on the beach. BBC ครับ What a great privilege this is to be on one of the world's most perfect beaches and to have it pretty much to myself. But what we don't know is how long this splendid isolation is going to last. The Thai authorities have got to find a balance between the needs of marine life, some of which, like coral, needs years to recover, and the demands of local businesses and all those people on the boats out there to allow visitors back onto the sand. So tourists can only view the famous beach from a distance. For those who've traveled across the world, I suppose, it must be a disappointment. So what do you guys think about the fact that you can't actually go there to Maya Bay?
I think that probably there is a good reason because people destroyed this beach before us, and because of this, we cannot go inside.
Yeah. So do you mind the fact that you can't actually go and see it, go and see the beach?
It's I think it's better.
So we're about to go into the water here at Maya Bay. This is Kun Song. He's one of the divers who's checking on the health of the coral that they've replanted in here ever since they shut it down.
ทดลองครับโอเคมันสามารถอยู่ได้อยู่รอดแล้วก็จะดูว่ามันเป็นชนิดไหนพันธุ์ไหนที่มันอยู่รอด
Back in Bangkok, I went to meet the man who really raised the alarm over Maya Bay. Aware of environmental issues, but that seems to be changing.
Yeah, you can see that the big change.
Are there indications that Maya Bay is recovering?
Yeah, we have 60 sharks. Before we have 0 shark, and it's the nursery ground. We have the evidence that at least 3 mother shark get a baby born in the way. Take a break. Give Mother Nature a chance, and you will be proud of your generation that you left something for the next generation.
Okay. Right on. Yeah. So I just wanted to show that because, you know, what happened there at Maya Bay when there's no sharks, that area is a nursery for shark species in that area. And once all the tourists were coming in, these predators were forced to leave the area because of tourism and overuse. So that just showed right there how when they completely stop the boats from coming in, you know, the natural environment takes over and the sharks actually came back home. And that's what we've been seeing in Molokini. You know, there's no data that we can really pull, that we can write down in a paper exactly right now, but I'm sure over time, when we look at our numbers, we're going to see the biomass significantly increase over the months that we've been closed, which is why we did a lot of work up there. So there's actually 2 studies that was going on in Molokini, and we're doing it together. So there was Mark Lammers was doing his ears project, and we were also doing a reef predator movement study. So how that works together is an ear is ecological assessment receiver. I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. But what they do is it detects noise. So it's an instrument that we install there, and it detects noise of boats, of fish, and it measures in certain decibels. So when it's getting louder, I'll show you guys later in a graph, you'll be able to see that the fish are starting to get displaced at a certain level of noise within the crater. So that is the ears project. We have 2 devices that was installed in Molokini so we could track the boats first off. Then the second study that we are currently doing out there is the predator movement study. And the way this works is the first thing we went out there is we installed receivers throughout the crater. In these pictures, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, that's one of the ears. So that's Mark Lammer's project. And that's the one that detects the noise and detects the sounds of boats and of fish. And then on the left side, the other picture, I'll show better pictures of it, but that is our acoustic receivers. And what an acoustic receiver is that it transmits off of tags that we're not installing, but we're inserting tags in the fish that we're catching, and we're getting pings off of the acoustic receivers. And what happens is that gives us data to show their movement patterns, because we have our receivers on the outside of Molokini on the back wall, and we also have it in the crater as well. Oh, right here, this is the picture I was looking for. So if you can see on this map of the crater, the 4 red dots that's on the back side of the Molokini crater, those are actually 4 acoustic receivers that we put out there. And then in the middle, there's the 3 receivers within the crater. Also, the map of Maui, you can see all the triangles, and the triangles are actually other receivers that work as well. And those are actually tied into the tiger shark tracking project. So what is cool is that all these tags that we're using, they work with all the rest of the receivers. So when we get numbers, every fish is labeled with a certain tag number, and all the sharks are as well. So when we receive pings from the sharks, we kind of find out and know what the sharks are doing as well. So when we go out there, we're working so hard because we have to fish all day and night, and it's just so hard on us. But you know, somebody got to do it. But really, it's so fun what we do. We go on our fishing methods. You know, we tried long lining, we tried stuff like that, but pretty much just the basic pole reel, live bait. That was just the best way to go. So what we do after we catch the fish is that we bring the fish on deck. We install an acoustic tag in their belly that consists of a small 1 inch to a 1.5 inch incision that we do with a scalpel. We insert a little acoustic tag in their belly, and on the right side picture, you can see that's the sutures that we put on the fish. And you know, so far all the fish that we've tagged, we've been gaining data off of them. So that means that none of them died since we tagged them. So that's a good thing. At least we kind of getting the hang now. Besides the acoustic tag, we put a visual tag or a dart tag on top that has a phone number that people can call, and also has a number of the fish. So when people call in, they see the visual tag, there's the phone number, and they can give us the number of the fish as well, so we can find out if that fish has been caught. Sometimes those dart tags fell out, and you know, we got people that caught some of our fish and they end up cutting them open, and our acoustic tags fall out of their belly. And it's several of my friends that called, and they kind of trip out because, you know, that's the last thing you're expecting when you're gutting your fish and getting ready to cook it. So that's pretty funny. The satellite tagging, these are the tags that's installed on the dorsal fin of the sharks. The way the satellite tagging works is that the sharks, they need to reach surface in order to get a ping off of the satellites. That's how you'll get those detections. They differ from the acoustic tags because the acoustic tags, you can get their pings underwater. So out there, we tagged these 5 species. We actually tagged more species than this, but these are the ones that we were studying, which is the ulua, the umilu, uku, white tip reef sharks, and gray reef sharks. The reason why we chose these predators is because they're known to live there at the crater. They're resident animals, and we wanted to see how their movement patterns work, if they really left the crater at certain times, or if it was just because of when the boats came in is the reasons why they left. So what we saw throughout the first study that we did is that 50% of the umilu that we tagged were displaced, or they left the crater when there was 12 or more vessels that was there. And the way we got the 12 vessels is because the ears measured the sound of the vessels. And when there's more than 12 during their peak time, what was happening is the umilu was leaving and they were being displaced from their natural home. So that was pretty cool to see. I'm very interested because we do have a lot more fish that we tagged out during this time of COVID when there was nobody out there. So once we download our receivers, we're going to get a whole bunch of information of what happened during the time of COVID when it was completely shut down and there was no boats out there. So yeah, this is just a quick graph just showing how it, so on the bottom you have the hours, so from 5 a.m. So you can see that peak hours is 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock time. So you can see that's when we have choke boats outside there. Choke vessels, choke noise, everybody in the water. And then you can see how the fish, they directly correlate with their sounds and their acoustic pings that we're getting on there as well. So I wanted to share these pictures because Molokini in the time of COVID, if you can see that upper right picture, that was Molokini. It's like, that was unheard of prior to COVID. For us to be out there working 3 or 4 months and there's no boats out there but just us, that was just amazing. For us not to worry about getting run over while we're trying to do dives and boats running over our pan floats, that was unreal. But what we also saw is the biomass of fish that we've never seen before during our monitoring there. Like on the bottom right picture, Cole, one of our technicians, he captured this picture of the school of Papio that we never seen that before, and also the huge abundance of maninis. So that was really cool. I just wanted to share that with you guys. And this is my last slide. This is my favorite picture out at Molokini. This is on sunrise and just the colors are beautiful. And I just wanted to quote, the doctor that we just saw that contributed to the Maya Bay efforts. And what he said, is so on point. Is just, take a break, give Mother Nature a chance, and you'll be proud of your generation that you left something for the next generation. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm in my position. I'm sure that's why you guys are in your guys' professional capacities as well. But that's all I have right now. And if you guys have any questions or if you guys are still there, let me know. Thank you.
Wow, mahalo nui, Adam. I'm so glad we went first because I don't know how we'd be able to follow a presentation like that. Amazing work, amazing research. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure a lot of people are furiously searching for ways that they can find a job to work with you and get to do that every day. If anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat, or if you want to ask Adam yourself, also on Facebook. We have one question from Tessa. Do you think that you'll be able to limit the number of boats or activity at Molokini after COVID?
So right now, in 2019, there was a push for us to limit the number of boats with commercial tour operators. What happened is that when we tried to push it through, money holds the hand or whatever. I don't even know what the saying is, but so what happened is the commercial boat operators, and if you guys are here online, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you guys down, but they banded together with Hawaii tourism industry and they kind of shut down our whole rule package that we were trying to do, which is we were trying to limit the amount of boats. But instead, what they decided to do is they tried to make agreements with us that the boats would just go out in certain times. So certain companies would go out at certain times throughout the day to keep the number of vessels down at the minimum. So that's what we kind of got out of it. Hopefully through this project, and when we start getting data back and we show more rock solid stuff, it will help us make stricter rules, especially for Molokini. Yeah. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, awesome. Mahalo. Allison is asking, what is the current limit of boats at one time? I guess.
So there is no current limit right now. We have, I believe, 26 Molokini permits that's legal right now, that's allowed to go to Molokini and charter a vessel there. So can you imagine if all 26 boats went at the same time? You know, there's a lot of moorings out there. What was another thing that was good that came out of this is that we're able to establish 2 non-commercial moorings out there, which is floating moorings. So anybody like yourself or myself who has a boat that wants to go out, they can just go out and tie. But what I'd like to let you guys know is that none of the commercial operators or companies own moorings. So plenty of times when you're out there, they're gonna be like, hey, get off my mooring, that's my mooring. And you'd be like, whoa, this is not your mooring, bah. This is the state's mooring. Just because you moor there every day doesn't mean you own them. But the thing is, they're all comfortable going to the same mooring. But now that there's 2 non-commercial ones, that kind of helps alleviate the stress out there.
Great. And I have a question too. So I'm assuming, pretty good assumption that most of the tour guides and people in the visitor industry that are attending these trainings are very aina-minded, you know, taking the time to want to learn more and want to do more to help and share with our visitors. What advice would you give to our people in the visitor industry that are in this meeting about going to Molokini? What would you want to encourage them to do or to share? And it seems like we're on the cusp of this, you know, area that we can maybe use this data that you guys gathered to put more protections in place. And I think that obviously will have to come from a higher level, you know, with our legislative session and council members. But for now, what would you want to share with our people in the visitor industry?
You know, I understand, you know, that's their income. That's, you know, it's the life for sure. And it is very important. But to me, the resources are way more important and take precedence over that money aspect. So it's a hard balance, but, you know, for commercial operators, you know, just really being there to educate. And I know you guys do your guys' best for sure, just educating the tourists, especially now, you know, dealing with sunscreen stuff and walking on the reef and just really respecting what we have. I think that goes a long way for sure.
Definitely. And I know even some companies go so far as to provide their own reef safe sunscreen for visitors. And so we appreciate those aina-minded companies. A few more questions in the chat. Irina is asking, what if you gave them more moorings or some other incentives, meaning make it so you have to use a mooring at a time? I think that's the question that you might be asking, Irina.
Okay, so what if you give them moorings or some other incentives?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to clarify that a little more, Irina, in the chat? And we can see, yeah. And then we also have, when will DLNR have the COVID time data for Molokini?
Hopefully we should have it, because usually quarterly. So by March, we should be pulling numbers and data. So by the time we get them all put together, it'll probably be the summertime, because, you know, the state, and I talk about the summertime 2030. Yeah. No, it'll be this year.
We'll be excited to see that data and definitely follow up and share it when you get it. Waiting to see if anybody else has questions. You can put it in the chat. Okay, Irina's following up. So to limit the number of boats, just have them use moorings.
Yeah, so all the boats, they have to tie up to moorings, because there's only certain sand channels that you can anchor in, but most of them will use the moorings. The reason why we go back and forth about eliminating moorings is because that's exactly what might happen, is that they're going to start anchoring and they're going to start damaging coral. So it's better to have them have moorings that they can tie up to than throwing anchor and busting everything out there.
Yeah, it seems like I guess what she's saying is, yeah, limiting those moorings to maybe 2 at a time, but you can definitely see that issue happening. And I think until, again, there's further protections,
Yeah.
keeping the moorings would be a good thing. I don't think we have any more questions. Do you want to do a quick 30-second recap of the shark research you're doing? I know that's pretty hot in the news right now, and maybe we just have to have you back for a whole presentation on your shark studies lately.
Oh, this past, you mean the bites?
Yeah, the
Yeah, so-
DNA research you folks are doing.
Yeah,
Quick
so
plug,
pretty
and then
much
we
what we'll find out soon. You know, we did the DNA tests and swabs and stuff, and we submitted it to Honolulu. So they should be running that now or yesterday, and I'm just kind of waiting back for an answer. But you know, the Sullivans who was on the kayak, they said they saw the white shark and all the characteristics of a white shark. So that was very interesting because the bite on the kayak is very consistent with a white shark bite as well. So I guess we'll find out. Hopefully the DNA samples are good and it worked, because it's like a hard plastic. It's easy for the DNA to get washed off or wiped off. So we did our best, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some amazing science you folks are doing, essentially being able to take DNA from shark bites and pinpointing not only the species, but perhaps the individual. So
Yeah, that'd be cool.
but who's out there biting? Okay, last question, and I really love this question. Thank you, Alba. So Alba says, mahalo for your efforts. Adam, what efforts do you take as a father to teach your keikis about conservation?
What I was always taught was you only can take what you can handle for the family. That's just the number one. I always teach that to my kids. You know, there's a commercial side and there's a home consumption side of things. I understand commercial fishermen, they need the money to, to pay their bills, to live. That's their livelihood. And, and there's us that use it just to put food on the table. And that's very important. I always tell my kids that the fish can populate in the freezer. My dad, a lot of people, they laugh because when they like fish, I tell them, bro, I no more fish. They said, what? You know more fish in the freezer? I tell them, bro, I don't put no fish in the freezer. It's what we take, is what we're going to eat. And we're going to eat them fresh. So that's just one of the things, is just be sure that you're always thinking for the next person. Because if we all think that way, then resources will go a long way.
Awesome. Well, mahalo nui Adam. Mahalo for everything that you're doing with DAR, and also just, as the lifestyle you choose to lead and examples that you're setting for these next generations. I know your kids personally, and they are going to be great humans and going forward to perpetuate the work that you are doing. So mahalo nui so much for joining us and for sharing all this awesome information. We're just so happy to have you, and we'll be talking to you soon about that shark data. So have a great day. Mahalo nui. And if everybody can stick around for a few more minutes, we have a few more things to do to wrap up.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Adam.
Aloha.
All right. Well, that is the end of our kind of formal presentations. If we have a couple polls for you guys to do right now, and kind of a short little that you can help our local natural resources and our environment. I guess I can start the poll too. So I know it's kind of hard to fill out questions and listen at the same time. So these polls help us with, seeing if how well you guys are learning, and what we can do to adapt our presentations. So thank you for filling these out. Oh, thanks for that, Tessa. I guess the first question only allows just like one answer instead of the 3, so that will skew our information, but that's fine. Answer what you can. We have one more short poll after this. I know we're kind of going a little bit long, but we appreciate everybody's time, and we'll give this a few more seconds for everyone to finish. We've got about half of the people in. And for those of you that are done, I'm gonna try not to talk too much, but I've shared here some information about, ways that you can help. There's also lots of great information on our mauimalka.org website. There's volunteer opportunities. We also have resources. So, all that information about, ways that you can help and, become involved in conservation. This is all on our mauimalka.org website. So this is, just a short part of our whole training, but it's a big impact, whatever that you can do and get involved in. And I've got 10 out of 13 people, so I think I'm going to go ahead and end it. And everybody okay with that? 11 out of 13, that's pretty good. Because I've got one more poll to do. 10 seconds. The last poll's pretty short, so you guys should be able to do it pretty quickly. And here's the next one, just a few more questions. And thanks again for your time. And after that, you guys can, feel free to log off unless you have any other questions. Feel free to just ask directly right now. We're kind of in this like free moment of chatting and talking, and once you're done, you can leave, and we're going to follow up with certificates if people request them. I think Allison talked about that at the beginning. And we also have a follow-up with links and some of the resources that we talked about today. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and share whatever information that you can about this. And we have another training on February 23rd, 9 a.m. to noon. And our guest speaker, like I mentioned earlier, is from the American Bird Conservancy, Taya Penniman. She'll be talking about the Birds Not Mosquitoes campaign that they're doing. And she'll be on at around, like 11:15. So it's like the last hour of that training. And you can just come for that new part of the training as well. Right, everybody answered. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Yes, we'll have the links to our resources that we put up in the chat will have links to some of the resources that I talked about in my presentation, and there will be lots of links.
Will there be links for us to request certificates?
Allison.
You can just, yeah, basically just respond to the email that gets sent to you and just say I would like it, and then give me your name, and then I will create it and send it back to you. And then that's pretty much how it goes. If you want a certificate, just respond to the email that we send you. It's coming from info@mauimaca.org. So make sure that it's on your safe list, or you check your junk email for it. I know sometimes info emails get thrown to spam, so just kind of keep an eye out for it. You'll probably get it tomorrow or next week, I would say. And then, like I said, respond to that, and then we'll make the certificate and send it to you. So
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. I'm going to say that again, and I hope you all learned something wonderful and great. And either if you're a tour guide, to share it with our tourists as they come back, or maybe with just a friend. And we appreciate you all being here, and please tell other people about these trainings. We do 4 a year, so we have this one and then one coming up, like we said, in February in a couple of weeks, and then we'll probably do 2 more. Kind of, we do it more like around October, November, December, like in the fall. And so usually you'll get an email from us